So there was a point, election day itself is weird. It's weird because you're exhausted. You're running on adrenaline. We'd been at it for a year and a half or so at that point, and I would say that the media had started to take us seriously in the few weeks before the election, and there was a tremendous amount of attention, I think, being paid to the campaign because it's been a spirited campaign and a very competitive one. But we were, we'd come from a long way to come to that point. So it was quiet. We voted that morning. I remember walking around to the usual polling place with Diane and so many of our neighbors out with signs and encouraging us as we went down that block and then casting that vote.
All right, everybody.
And then I think we went downtown. It felt like an eerie day. We figured we'd have a nice dinner. We'd wait for the polls and then go over to the Heinz. And we got to the dinner, and someone came in. It might have been Brendan. And said they're calling it now. And they had closed the polls, 10 minutes before, something like that. And they said they're calling the election now. And I said, what? So we didn't get supper. And we left, and my family finished up. Diane and I left, and my family finished up, and we came over to the Heinz. And I think that's where we met you guys. And you said congratulations, and everybody had worked so hard and was so high and just excited, but it was sobering. And it reminded me, I don't know if you remember, I asked for some alone time, but just to frankly have a quiet time to absorb what was happening and try to have it make an imprint that I wasn't going to lose, because it was a big deal, and I knew expectations were high, and immediately, the angle of the media was, "Are you worried about expectations being very, very high?" Do you remember that? And I remember thinking, in fact, the expectations were high not of me, but of the general public. They had raised their expectations of themselves, and I thought then, and I still do, that was a pretty positive thing. I have less hair, a new hip, fatigues I didn't have before, stresses I didn't have before, but it's been worth it. And you get the rewards you get. The ones that are the most meaningful are usually out of the public view. I told you about the woman I met in the grocery store out here in the Berkshires yesterday, who came up and said, "You don't know me, but you wrote me a letter a few years ago when you came back from visiting the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you met my son. And when you got home, you wrote and said, 'I met your son. He's fine. He's doing great.'" And I asked her how he was doing, and she said he was home and safe. And she said that letter at that moment meant a lot to me. And she was filled up, and I was overcome, and that stuff is magic. And there've been more of them than I can remember or have recorded, and they have made this journey more than worthwhile.